look at that thing go. That's called a swing bridge. So this is the one way to navigate all the way around Cape Breton, right?
Yeah, the causeway in between Cape Breton and the rest of Nova Scotia.
So we're just parked here at the causeway, and we got to see a sailboat come through the lock here. And then they have to open this bridge, which we couldn't tell how it moved from just looking at it. And now we can see. It swings on one side. That is pretty cool. Kind of funny, there's a little graveyard here on top of this hill. We just stayed the night down here in this little spot.
Goodbye, Cape Breton. We loved your music.
So we wrapped up our Cape Breton time with one final Kaylee in Port Hawkesbury last night, and now we're crossing the Causeway to the rest of Nova Scotia, leaving Cape Breton Island. It has been wonderful.
Back on the mainland. We haven't been on the mainland in a month.
Yeah, we're back on the mainland, connected to the rest of the continent.
Go see a boar tide. So we're here at the Interpretive Center, and they got a viewing platform that used to be the old train bridge. There's no train anymore.
So at this location, it's pretty popular to ride the board tide, actually go out there and raft it.
We're hoping to see it. We're hoping to see people doing it.
There's a couple of rafts out there. There's like several companies on the map around here. I don't think it's something that we're gonna do while we're here because of the muddy water and just, well, like logistically getting all muddy and being in the truck camper and getting everything clean. It would just be a challenge, and we're not super prepared for that. So maybe we'll just watch other people do it.
So it's pretty much as low as it would go. When we were out here earlier, actually it's still flowing that way. It's still got a flow.
Well, we've got 10 more minutes according to my watch. And I imagine that they actually have pretty exact times for these changing of the tides and these bore waves.
We will see.
Because that's kind of like the thing here, right? Is the tide.
Definitely flowing out still. Boy, they had to build these pilings to withstand this exposure every single day. That one doesn't look like it's doing so hot. It's raining.
And the boar is late. You're supposed to be here 25
said
minutes
this is a science, but it actually, I mean, it is a science, but it is also a prediction. If you actually look at tide charts, they call them predictions. There's a lot of factors that can affect the tides. I don't know why it would be late today, but
maybe they printed the wrong day. Maybe
it's like
it's human
half an hour
error,
late.
not tidal error.
Almost no visibility.
Dedicated boar feeders. You see the rain in sheets. Oh, she finally showed up.
Didn't really get a bore, but it's been coming in so fast that I would say within the first 30 seconds it raised like a foot or two.
Yeah.
And all the mud, everything we were seeing was just gone, and we've been able to just physically watch it crawl up these rocks.
And then this water is starting to really rush around this corner here. I wouldn't be surprised if
I
it
mean, it's like the
picks up.
river totally reversed.
Yep.
Look at it flow around those.
Yeah. Got some rapids going on over there. Well, not rapids, but ripples.
There's zodiacs.
Oh, here come the rafts. There's so many of them. Look at them.
There
It was
are
just
so many of them.
So wet. Oh my
And
god.
cold. It is not a warm day. They're riding the tide. There are some rapids out there in those over the mud.
Oh my gosh, look at them go. That's funny. All right, well, we're glad we stayed despite the rain and the wind, because that was really neat to see.
Tomorrow's gonna be a nicer day.
Yes.
We'll see more.
Bay of Fundy explorations to come.
Hopefully not so soaked.
Yes.
Well, this looks way nicer. Let's go check out the river. Wow, look at this. What a difference.
So much different.
So much different. That's wild. It's still coming in. Look at that. Yeah, it looks like it goes up another like 4 feet. Fundy Tidal Interpretive Center is located on the edge of a former rail line. There's the bridge we were viewing from.
So we just wrapped up our stay here at the Fundy Tidal Interpretive Center. We got to stay here overnight, which was awesome because not only did we get to see the tide at low and then coming in, but this morning when we woke up it was at full, so we got to see all stages of the tide on this river here, which was really neat.
It's just cool to see a river that reverses course like this to such an extreme too. It's just a really cool place, great interpretive center. Highly recommend to stop here. We are now on to see some more of the Fundy Bay area though, because there are lots of places you can see it from. Water comes all the way up here.
Oh, look, there's a whole bunch of chairs out here. Are there?
So this event is the Dine on the Ocean Floor event, and a famous chef cooks a meal for people sitting on the ocean floor there. I think it might be a charity thing. It's very expensive, thousands of dollars to attend. It's kind of interesting. You get to eat on the ocean floor. Huh. There are stairs carved right into the rocks. Wow. It does feel like you'd be underwater, doesn't it?
Yeah. So this rock here, which is an island when the tide comes in, actually didn't used to be an island. It used to be connected to shore. And they had built the first lighthouse out here. But after tidal erosion over the years and this becoming an island, they knew that the lighthouse wasn't going to stand the test of time. So they took it down and they built it further inland.
This is pretty wild.
We are walking on the ocean floor. That's pretty cool.
We would be 40 feet below sea level when it's tide's up. Seaweed is so green. You gotta come see this. Look at it against the sun right here. It just like explodes in green.
Oh yeah.
That is crazy.
It's pretty green.
Check this out. It's like a full cave in here. Just eroding away. This will all collapse in some time. It's like a relatively soft red sandstone.
Oh my god!
Isn't this cool?
That is amazing.
So this little cave that we're in right now will be underwater completely in a
few
couple
hours.
hours. That's just hard to believe. This place is pretty spectacularly beautiful. I don't think I expected to like it as much as we have. The tides here are immense and fascinating, but it's not the only place in the world you get big tides. If you haven't seen our Alaska series, our time at Turnagain Arm, we were able to see people surfing the boar tide, which there are a few places around here that they can do that as well.
Sometimes it depends on the right conditions. Like last night when we were watching the boar come in, it came in a little bit more softly, which sometimes in that spot they do get the wave, but it just changes. There's so many different factors.
Wind, debris, mud conditions of the river, all sorts of different things affect how the tide comes in. But the general reason the tide is so big here and where we are is because we are so far inland up a very, very large bay, of course, really far from the water. And as we described in the previous video, a tide is basically a gigantic wave in the ocean. And as everyone pretty much knows, it is caused by the gravitational pull from the moon and the sun. In the previous video, I actually did a simulation about simulating the waves of the tides in the ocean, and a little piece, I think I'll throw that in right now. But there's so much more to the tide. It's not just the gravity of the moon lifting the water, right? There is a force from the moon lifting the water, but it's like 1.5 times 10 to the negative 7th G, like almost nothing. Like you're not gonna feel it, right? It's the force of the vectors, the tidal vectors pulling towards the moon over the course of the entire Earth, and then water pressure itself that causes the tides to move and lift. It's really water pressure that creates the tides. And the reason is actually gravitational differential. It's not just gravitation and the lift of it, but actually the gradient of gravity across the width of the Earth. When you see Einstein's famous well description of like the Earth circling the gravity well of the sun, that is one way to look at it, but you kind of have to think of gravity more as a field, and the field strength dissipates from the source, the mass, and we're sitting in a gradient from the moon and the sun, and that gradient is stronger on one side towards the moon and not as strong on the other side, and that differential is what causes tidal forces. And tidal forces don't just create tides, they actually deform the entire Earth. The Earth itself is deformed by the tides. The Earth itself, rocks, deform about 22 inches at their max every time that we have a tidal swing, and most of the time that means nothing to us, but it has been proven that tidal forces inside the rock of our Earth actually do cause volcanic and earthquake activity in certain places, which is really cool. And really, really sensitive scientific instruments like the LIGO interferometer and CERN, the particle accelerator, actually have to account for earth tides, rock tides, tides in the rock, because they are that sensitive. Tides are an astronomical phenomenon, and they affect so many things. The famous Shoemaker-Levy 9 comet that exploded or broke up as it we were able to watch it slam into Jupiter, that was a tidal force that broke it up. And there's a famous thing called the Roche limit, at which an object that is only held together by its own gravitational force, so imagine a clump of rocks just held together by their own gravity, as they approach a planet, the tidal forces, the differential in gravity across it, will actually rip that object apart at some point as it approaches, and that's called the Roche limit. I could totally nerd out for hours on tides and space stuff.
You've already nerded out for about 5 minutes here, so maybe we should give our viewers a reprieve and go back to showing them some pretty landscape stuff.
Anyway, the tides are really cool. There's a lot to learn about them, and if you're curious, dig into tidal forces and the astronomical versions of them, because there's a lot to learn there. When the tides rush in, they really push against these rocks, and only critters that can live here have to really hang on, and they've got to find these little like notches. It's like I'm on ice.
Oh gosh. Yeah, we're gonna have to
Oh my gosh.
clean our shoes before going back in the camper.
The reason this bay is so incredibly muddy is the tidal action. It basically keeps it churned up to the point that the silt and the mud can't settle. And that's a common feature of high tidal areas. Turnagain Arm in Alaska was the same way. It was more of a gray silt because it's a glacial silt. But here it's mud from the river valleys that just can't settle, and it just stays muddy all the time. Look at them all.
Oh
They're having a little powwow. Some are fighting each other. They're fighting over a house. My house, my house, my house, my house. They are fighting over a shell. Or maybe it's a dead snail they're trying to eat.
Maybe.
Well,
That would make more sense.
that's morbid. Sailing about on the ocean floor. I feel like this is kind of like exploring White Pocket. You know? There's just like so many cool formations. Just keep walking around and who knows what you'll find.
Holding up this entire thing. Oh, you're gonna go under. Ah! Looks like we aren't the first.
Yeah, that's not gonna last much longer. Who knows how recent that formed? This all erodes so quickly. Looks like this rock is about to go.
Yeah.
Not a good idea. Like I got 5 pounds of mud on my shoe. This stuff is some kind of sticky. Look at that. Jeez.
Oh.
Shoes are wet.
They even have a sign.
Another lighthouse. Holy heck, it's just a sauna.
Woo-hoo!
Look at all the truck numbers.
I'm looking at the view first. Oh, yeah.
That's a good view.
Yeah, look at them all.
It's like a sauna.
Yeah, you said.
It even smells like a sauna.
All right. Oh. What a time to start filming. Right as we hit a speed bump. So we just wrapped up at Burntcoat Head Park.
Highly recommend it.
Highly recommend.
How is that place cool?
We had a blast, and if you time it right with the low tide, you can be out there for hours exploring the cliffs and the caves and the tidal pools and all that stuff. It was really, really cool. Now we are looking for a place to spend the night and continue our Bay of Fundy adventure tomorrow.
There was a Tidal parking lot back there, wasn't there? Too small.
Very close to the road.
Watching the tide come in from bed.
Last night we found a really cool spot here along the Bay of Fundy, and we were able to watch the tide come all the way in from way out there to just kind of wrap all the way around us. It was really cool to watch.
Tidal Energy Research Center.
So they're actually testing energy things out in the bay here in front of this area. Okay, so they have a lot of current here that really just rips out and around in this area. This is that point from the other side. That's Cape Split. Now you can see why it's called Cape Split. And the tide just, it funnels through here, so it's really high currents. That must be why they're testing tidal energy here.
We're at near slack tide, but look, it's still moving.
done its tests already. This is a really cool cross-section of a subsea cable. Your primary conductors. Looks like this might be a AC. You got fiber optic communication, control power, and then massive protection, steel jacketing the outside just to protect it, prevent damage to the interior cabling. This is similar to what we saw at the grounding sites that we visited.
So basically this center is an area where they are testing tidal devices. It is some of the most turbulent, high-speed water movement in the world here. And it's kind of a, if it'll work here, it'll work anywhere type thing. They work with a lot of environmental monitoring. That's actually what this facility is doing, is to try to figure out what the impact of these machines are. There is currently a machine out in the bay that unfortunately the company went bankrupt when they put it in, so it's still there but not doing anything. It's been there since 2018, but they do have some newcomers coming in that are going to try out some new devices. It is an engineering challenge. Think about trying to manage something underwater in saltwater, muddy water, turbulent water conditions, generating energy. It's a huge challenge, but it has been done successfully in the past, and they do think that there is an awful lot of potential here at the Bay of Fundy and a lot of other places around the world. And this is just kind of a research center figuring out if it'll work. Boat ramp. I think it only works at high tide.
We could go down there and climb up.
We're so far down below it. The water would be way over your head. It's like a harbor that's drained. Oh wait, it is a harbor that's drained. Oh my gosh. You could walk out to that lighthouse, but when the tide comes in, you'd be trapped. So it looks like they put down these big Teflon. They're actually very slippery. Very slippery things probably for the boats to sit on. Granted, that's not sitting on them at all. Wow. So wow, it is slippery. Pretty much the entire Bay of Fundy has massive tides, and it's a really big region. And we're in the town of Parsborough here. But there's lots of spots all around that have just these crazy tidal swings. And
All along here.
As you can see, this is just one of the little harbors that drains away every time, twice a day.
Well, we don't have the iconic mud here and where those photos are with the boats sitting on the mud. We still have the boats just sitting on, I guess, on dry. It's a damp ground, but no water. No water.
So slippery.
It's like really not a good idea.
No, this is a terrible idea.
Why are we doing this?
Because you wanted to see the boat on the ground. Oh, you're going for it, huh? You get your shoes all muddy. Oh, what did I tell ya?
What a good find!
Except that I was filming.
Yes!
Let me see that shoe. Let me see that shoe. See, here's my shoes. Oh, jeez. Ooh, this. It's so muddy. Right. Oh my gosh, there's another boat even higher. Yep, it's muddy.
I think you're just having fun now.
Moral of this story, if you plan a visit to the Bay of Fundy and you really want to explore the low tides, bring some rubber boots. So in about 5 hours, that thing's gonna be floating, right?
Yeah. We won't be here, but it'll be floating.
Well, at least that's convenient.
The only thing we ever use our outdoor shower for.
That's pretty much what it's supposed to be used for. And I'll just take advantage of your excess water. Save water. Last seafood dinner.
Last day in Nova Scotia, and we haven't had any seafood here yet, so we have to try it. We're obligated to try it.
Look at the satellite image of this place. This is where we walked around. It's all surrounded by water. This is completely open right now. Crazy. You might a little bit more color in this food. Seafood on Caesar actually works. It's really good. Gosh, that was supposed to be a selfie. Gigantor Adirondack. This is, I think, our last night on the Bay of Fundy.
Yep, part of the reason we wanted to kind of go all out with the seafood is we're going to be heading inland now.
It's kind of the end of our maritime journey.
Yeah.
Overall, I think the Bay of Fundy has been more entertaining than I expected it to be. It's, again, as we've said over and over on our trip, this area is big. There's so many spots and areas of it that you can explore. And we know that we just barely scratched the surface of Nova Scotia. There's so much more that we're going to have to come back for.
But even the small bit that we did, like, exceeded expectations, like way far beyond.
It's so pretty here.
It's so pretty.
If you want to see coastline, wow, it's just everywhere here. Yes. And that's just that. It's Canadian Maritimes, right? That's what we've loved our trip, and it has been fantastic. But like all great things, it's going to come to an end for us, and we need to head back.
Yes, we've got some things that we need to do at home, so we have to start heading back, but that doesn't mean the trip's over for us. We still have over 2,000 kilometers and probably at least a week getting back to Michigan, so we're just starting that leg of the journey now.
But goodbye, Bay of Fundy. We have enjoyed visiting you.
It's been wonderful.
And in probably like 3 hours, this will be underwater.
We'll wash away our footprints. The sign. Can you tell us where we are?
We're in New Brunswick.
Woo! New province!
So we made it home. Unfortunately, the truck had a bit of an issue. The day after we hit the road to start heading home, we had a random overheating incident on the truck. We were luckily able to pull off the highway almost immediately and start investigating. I pulled the thermostat in the truck and it fell apart in my hands. Unfortunately, it seemed to have failed in the worst possible configuration. It jammed the bypass loop in the truck closed, so the truck was not properly flowing coolant through the engine. Ugh, scary situation. We got a new thermostat 2 days later.
I think it'll work. It came with a seal, which I'm glad for, because the seal that was in there,
Yeah, I noticed when it came apart, it kind of...
Maybe we could run without the thermostat, but I put it back together and it just leaked like crazy. So we couldn't have driven even without the thermostat, which I don't recommend ever, even though it technically will work, because it can cause other issues. But my biggest concern was that
2,000
the
kilometers.
bypass valve in the previous thermostat had jammed. I figured out what happened. The bypass valve got cockeyed on this bottom piece and jammed the thing closed. And even if it tried to open, the previous design had an extra spring that would push on this, and it was jammed closed. So even if it tried to open, it probably damaged itself. I really hope it didn't do any damage to the engine, but we got it.
We happened to break down the evening before Labor Day, and everything was closed Labor Day. So we spent 2 days in a parking lot in the town of Grand Falls. I took that time to rotate the tires on the truck, but we finally were able to get a thermostat and throw it in the truck. But unfortunately, we were seeing signs of either a head gasket failure or a cracked head. We weren't seeing any coolant in the oil or oil in the coolant though, so we decided to try and drive on the truck. And basically we determined that as long as we kept moving and the thermostat stayed open, the truck was warm, it was able to purge any of the exhaust gases in the system and we could keep driving. Unfortunately, every time we came to a stop, it would start purging coolant out over the overflow. This made the drive home very challenging. We had to stop probably 20 times to transfer coolant from the expansion tank back into the engine to be able to continue the drive.
Down. Basically, I'm squeezing the big primary coolant return up, down, and it's sucking coolant back from the return bottle back into the radiator. Up, down, and then we just use that to create suction. It's a little ridiculous, but it's been working. Up, down.
This got really frustrating with construction and stoplights in town. So we ended up driving through the night to get home, and it was absolutely exhausting, but we did make it home and never had a overheat on the engine again. I mean, it started getting warm, but we would always come to a stop anytime we saw that. So we never technically overheated it as bad as it did when the thermostat originally failed. Now, since being home, I've done a little bit more diagnostics. I made sure that there wasn't other issues with the cooling system or it wasn't the turbo. It does look like we have an issue in the head of the truck, which I'm really frustrated about because we just rebuilt this engine. So unfortunately, that's going to take a lot of time and possibly a lot of cost to fix, and I just don't have the time to put into it this fall. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to take this truck south as we had planned this winter. Doesn't mean adventures are done for this truck though. We're definitely going to get it fixed and get it back out on the road because this trip was incredible. What was your favorite part of the trip?
Oh, that's so hard. It was all so fantastic. We definitely loved Newfoundland. I loved Cape Breton, all the music. I actually really loved all the history, like piecing that together and learning about the origins of, the first people coming to that area and how it kind of linked in with what we already know about the American Revolution and how Britain and France were all in there. So that was actually really fascinating to me. I'm usually not like a big history buff, so that was a little different for me to be really excited about learning that stuff.
I love Newfoundland as well. To me, Newfoundland felt kind of like the west of the East Coast. You don't really think of like the ability to like boondock and really take campers all over the place, but it really felt so free out there, and it's so beautiful. big and open and beautiful.
And everyone was so friendly. Being able to go out fishing, that was so cool because fishing is such a crucial part to that culture. And
It was just incredible.
Labrador and our drives through the north were fascinating as well. Driving down to the crater and up to Hudson Bay. Geez, it's a challenge. It was a challenging drive for sure, and so long, but it was just neat to be able to see it in person.
Yeah, and then when we got to Nova Scotia and experienced Cape Breton and all the music, it actually inspired me so much that I went ahead and bought a fiddle, and I'm gonna try to learn how to fiddle. Like it just really inspired me, and I loved it so much. So there was a lot of really cool things on this trip that I don't think we were expecting.
I would go back in a heartbeat. I think it's like we've said so many times, we only scratched the surface of the place, and there's so much more to see in Nova Scotia, and just so much. There's just so much, and we just loved it. So I think there will definitely be a Maritimes part 2 at some point in the future.
Yeah, we definitely left a few things to come back to. Like we said in the videos, Newfoundland ended up being so much bigger than we anticipated. So there's a lot of stuff in Newfoundland that we have to go back and see. A lot of stuff in Nova Scotia. So it's definitely not like a one and done type of trip. So
but we definitely need to get the truck fixed first.
Yeah,
the truck, it performed fantastic. The big repair we did before, it worked great for the whole trip. I guess we're very fortunate that the failure happened right at the end, which was great.
After we had decided, like, okay, we're gonna start heading back now, and then like that's when it happened.
With a completely custom rig, though, there's always things that we want to upgrade and changes that we're gonna make. So lots more projects on the truck and camper in the future.
We may not have a house, but we have plenty of house projects on our collection of RVs.
Isn't that the truth? All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us on this adventure. It was just so much fun, and we always appreciate having you along.
So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for more stuff coming down the pipe.
Who knows what it's going to be?
We haven't really figured out what our fall and winter plans are exactly going to be yet, but we're excited to bring you along.
All right, everyone. We'll see you down the road.
Bye.